Hello, I just want to say a few words about the three readings that you're going to hear at Mass on this coming Sunday. I think all of them have to do with this challenging business of how uncomfortable Christian discipleship can be. Look at that first reading. It's written for Jews living in the bright and sophisticated, highly scientific society of Alexandria in North Egypt. And some of them, it seems, were feeling that, well, maybe our old religion is a bit inferior, not quite up to date enough. And I think some people feel that about Christianity today. Well, that reading from the Book of Wisdom gives a few answers to that. It also said, by the way, do expect persecution. And I think those early Christians, when they opened the Book of Wisdom and found the plot that you've got mentioned there against the just man, let's condemn him to a shameful death, they would say, do you know, that's Jesus to the life. So I think that's why early Christians use that book so very much indeed. Deeply Jewish, very pious, but also realistic about life today. Then in the second reading, we're continuing with the readings from the letter to James, which we've been following for a few weeks now. And there it's not so much persecution from outside as stuff going on within the community. You're fighting against each other. There are inner battles. And what he says to that is, I don't know if you've experienced this in your own church, what he says to that is, look, you're not praying enough. So if things are going tough for you, make sure you pray. And I think that's all I'll say about the James reading. It's a good one, and I'd like you to sit carefully with it over the weekend. Then the Gospel is a lovely Gospel. It's the second of the three Passion predictions with which the second half of Mark's Gospel is structured. And it comes in 4 bits. The first bit, rather mysterious, Jesus and his disciples were going through the Galilee and he didn't want anyone to know. That's baffling, and just notice that. It's unusual for Jesus not wanting people to know. Then the second thing that happens is we hear what he's actually teaching, and it's pretty tough. He's saying the Son of Man is going to be handed over into the hands of sinners. So it's fairly remarkably austere, and that the whole of the rest of Mark's Gospel shares this austerity as we move nearer and nearer to Jesus' death. Then the third bit of it, they come to Capernaum. Capernaum, you remember, is the headquarters of the mission. And they get to the house, and Jesus says, what were you talking about on the road? And of course, they want to be absolutely silent because they have made the mistake of talking about who is Mr. Big in our community, who's the number one. And so they don't say anything very much. So Jesus gives them a visual aid. He brings a child and says, look, you've got to be like that. You've got to receive each other like children, and you've got to receive the kingdom as children receive the kingdom. And so there you have it. Our task when we're faced with persecution, when we're faced with divisions in the church, when we're faced with our failure to pray and all the alarming things that can happen to us, our task is to keep our eyes on Jesus, keep our eyes on God, and always keep our eyes on the marginalized, which will sometimes be children, but not always. So why don't you try and do that this week?